Help me reach 2,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought a single night could unravel everything I thought I knew about my relationship. My name is Ethan, I'm 29, and I've been engaged to Claire for just under a year. We met at a mutual friend's wedding, and in the beginning, everything seemed perfect. Claire was sharp, funny, magnetic. She lit up a room, and I was drawn to her confidence and warmth. I worked in logistics, managing shipments for a mid-sized company, and I was proud of what I did. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I'd worked hard to get there. That pride, however, would not last. The evening in question was supposed to be a celebration. Claire invited a few of her friends over to toast our engagement, and I thought I had prepared for everything. I cooked, cleaned the apartment, and even picked out a bottle of wine I thought they'd enjoy. I arrived early to make sure everything was perfect. The room was buzzing when Claire arrived, laughing and chatting with her friends. I smiled, genuinely happy, and tried to relax. The first few minutes were normal enough. Light jokes, polite introductions. But then, in a way I didn't see coming, the air shifted. One of her friends, Jessica, asked about my work. I began explaining, tried to sound casual, describing my responsibilities and what a typical day looked like. I wanted them to understand the effort and skill involved, the responsibility I carried. That's when Claire laughed. At first, I thought it was a light-hearted tease. I should have known better. But then she leaned back, her smirk turning into something sharper, more cutting. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, he just works in logistics. You know, moving boxes and driving trucks all day. Nothing impressive." Her friends tittered, some covering their mouths, trying not to laugh too loudly, but it was obvious they were entertained. And I froze. I felt my chest tighten, my face burning with humiliation. Every ounce of pride I had in my work seemed to crumble instantly. I opened my mouth, wanting to defend myself, to explain the complexity and skill involved, but the words lodged in my throat. Claire didn't stop. She went on, making little exaggerated gestures, her eyes rolling, her voice dripping with condescension. "I mean, it's cute he tries, but really? Come on, you do the same thing every day. How exciting can that be?" She turned to her friends, nodding and chuckling, as if this was some inside joke that only they were allowed to understand. I felt invisible in the room. Every laugh, every whispered comment, landed like a punch in the gut. I had spent months planning my life with this woman, imagining a partnership built on respect, trust, and support. And yet here she was, gleefully tearing down everything I valued, and worse, in front of people she knew would laugh at me. I tried to excuse myself politely, stepping into the kitchen for a moment to gather my thoughts. My hand shook slightly as I gripped the counter, the wine glass I poured for myself trembling in my fingers. How had it come to this? I replayed our conversations, our private moments, tried to pinpoint when she had begun to feel this disdain for me. Was it subtle at first, a passing joke here or there? Or had she always harbored this contempt, cleverly disguised as playfulness? By the time I returned to the living room, Claire had begun a story about some co-worker of hers, using it as a vehicle to needle me further. Every word felt like another insult, meticulously aimed at undermining my confidence. Her friends were eating it up, their eyes darting to me every few sentences, waiting for my reaction. And I couldn't give it to them, not yet. I tried to force a smile, to appear unbothered, but it felt hollow even to me. My mind raced. Should I confront her now, in front of everyone, and risk making a scene? Or should I let it slide, endure this humiliation, and talk later when it was just the two of us? I wanted to leave, to walk out of that apartment and never look back, but some stubborn part of me clung to the idea that maybe, just maybe, this was temporary. That perhaps she had been joking. Then came the moment that shifted everything. Claire's laughter, sharp and cutting, stopped mid-sentence. She looked directly at me, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't identify. Amusement? Disdain? Power? She leaned in and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Honestly, Ethan, you really thought this mattered? Do you even realize how small your job looks next to what we all do? A silence fell over the room. Her friend smirked, sensing the tension but unsure how to intervene. My stomach churned, and I felt a rush of heat in my face. My jaw tightened, and for the first time that night, I allowed my anger to rise, just beneath the surface, mixing with the sting of betrayal. This wasn't just teasing or a joke anymore. This was deliberate, a public display meant to diminish me, to show her friends, and perhaps herself, that I was somehow less than worthy. I wanted to respond, to speak, but instead I just nodded, turning my gaze to the floor. My ears rang from the laughter that followed, though it was muted in my mind. I could feel the weight of her judgment, the sheer audacity of her cruelty, and I realized something chilling. I didn't know the woman sitting in front of me anymore. She had transformed before my eyes, and there was no warning, no subtle transition, just this sharp, undeniable rift between who I thought she was and who she had become. I excused myself again, this time heading toward the bedroom. My heart pounded, my hands still shaking. Every step I took felt heavier than the last, weighted with disbelief and humiliation. I needed space, clarity, anything to separate myself from the venom she had just spat in front of her friends. And as I closed the door behind me, leaning against it with my forehead pressed to the wood, I realized the night was far from over. What had started as an evening of celebration had morphed into a reckoning I hadn't anticipated. And deep down, I knew that when I emerged from that room, nothing about our relationship would ever feel the same again. I stayed in the bedroom longer than I intended, tried to steady my thoughts, replaying every moment from the living room in my mind. Each laugh, each sneer, each jab at my job ran like a loop. I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but something inside me froze. This wasn't about shouting or winning an argument. This was about understanding the woman I thought I loved and realizing I might not recognize her anymore. Eventually, I took a deep breath and stepped out. The room was quieter now. Claire's friends were lingering near the couch, sipping their wine, glancing at me with awkward curiosity. Claire herself was reclining in her chair, a satisfied smirk still tugging at the corners of her mouth. My stomach twisted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I could feel the adrenaline pumping, the heat in my chest, but I forced my face to stay neutral. Calmness, I decided, would be my shield. I approached Claire slowly, letting my presence fill the room without a word. Her smirk faltered slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. I sat opposite her, keeping my voice low but steady. "Claire," I began, "what you said tonight, why did you feel the need to humiliate me in front of everyone?" She laughed softly, as if my question amused her. "Humiliate you? Ethan, it's not like that. I was just being honest. Isn't that what you want?" I felt a jolt in my chest. Honest? Her honesty had been nothing but a public spectacle, a demonstration of superiority. I clenched my fists under the table, trying to channel the storm inside me into words that mattered. Honesty doesn't come with a need to embarrass someone. It comes with respect. And what you showed tonight wasn't respect. The room went silent. Her friends shifted, sensing the tension, perhaps realizing this wasn't going to be the playful evening they had expected. Claire's eyes narrowed, and I realized this was a moment I had been subconsciously waiting for, the moment I stopped being just a passive participant in her narrative. "I've spent months thinking we were partners, Claire," I continued, my voice steady now, my calmness bolstered by the clarity that had been eluding me. "I believe we were equals, that we supported each other, that we respected what each of us does. But tonight you showed me exactly where I stand." Her smirk faltered completely, replaced by something sharper, defensiveness. "Ethan, you're overreacting. I was just joking. Can't you take a joke?" I shook my head slowly, letting the words sink in for both of us. "No, not tonight. Not after the way you laughed at me, at my work, and at me in front of everyone. That wasn't a joke. That was a choice. And it's a choice I can't ignore anymore." Claire opened her mouth, proud to argue, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "I don't want an argument. I don't want to fight. I want clarity. I want to know if this is the person I promised my life to, or if I've been pretending too long." She looked away, fidgeting with the wine glass in her hand, the cracks in her confidence now visible. I could see it, The realization that my calm, measured response wasn't something she could control with a laugh or sneer. I didn't mean to, she started, but I shook my head. No, don't. Don't excuse it. Don't minimize it. Tonight showed me the truth. And the truth is, I can't be with someone who belittles me in front of others. Someone who sees my efforts as something to mock. I love you, Claire. But love without respect is just a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the pain of leaving. Her eyes widened. Ethan, wait, we can fix this. I leaned back, letting the words hang between us. We can't. Not if this is who you are when the spotlight is on. Not if your respect for me can disappear in the laughter of your friends. I've tried. I've tolerated. I've hoped. But hope doesn't rebuild respect. I stood, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair. The room was still, every movement amplified in the tension. Her friends looked at me, eyes wide, and for a moment I wondered if they had expected this outcome. But I didn't care about their expectations. I cared about my own dignity, the quiet strength I had finally summoned. I'm leaving, I said simply. I need to step away from this, from all of this. Claire opened her mouth again, but no words came. The smirk was gone, replaced by an expression I didn't recognize. Regret, maybe, or shock. It didn't matter. The decision had been made. As I walked out of the apartment, the cool night air hit me, and I felt a strange mixture of liberation and sadness. The humiliation still stung, but the clarity was freeing. I had allowed myself to be seen, truly seen, and I had finally responded with calmness, not desperation. I didn't know what the next few days, weeks, or months would bring. Perhaps Claire would call. Perhaps she wouldn't. Perhaps her friends would never forgive me for taking away the entertainment of the evening. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that I had chosen myself, that I had chosen dignity over embarrassment, respect over silence, and my own peace over the chaos of her contempt. The city lights reflected off the pavement as I walked to my car, each step lighter than the one before. I didn't look back. The apartment, the friends, the laughter, they were all behind me now. And in that moment, for the first time that night, I felt something I hadn't in months, a quiet, unshakable sense of control over my own life. For the first time, I realized that leaving wasn't defeat. It was clarity. And sometimes the sharpest moments of humiliation are the ones that finally give you the courage to reclaim your own story.